Hello guys, this is Rez. Welcome to the last video. In the last video of Lab 1. In this video, we're going to make customization for what the input keys are going to be. So like this, inside the code, we don't really know what the inputs are, but we know that if they're assigned to, like, let's say go forward, we will go forward. If they're assigned to go left, we'll go left or right. Okay? So to do this, the first thing you need to go is to go on edit on top left of your screen and go on project settings, go on input. This defines all the stuff by pressing access here. This defines all the type of keys that you're gonna look for when you're playing the game. This is gonna be useful because let's say you are going for multiple devices and on, let's say on your let's say PlayStation, you would have the X, square, and O buttons, but on your PC you would have way more keys, or on your, let's say, tablet, you wouldn't have any keys, right? But to support all these devices, or to support that the user selects his keys, we'll need to use this input manager here. Inside the input manager, we type what kind of a button it is. In this case, it fires, it does this or that. There seems to be some duplicates here for some odd reason. So anyway, so we have currently horizontal and vertical. And if we wanted to create more, we just change the size of the array, let's say to 19. Press enter, and you'll see a last one getting created. And you could rename it to optical beam in this case, and give it the buttons here. Okay, however, before we get there, so I'm just going to make this to 18, delete that. You'll see the first two keys here done for you. In this lab, it's not a part of your homework, but we're going to be using those horizontal and vertical. However, before we use it, you need to understand how it works. So inside the horizontal one, we gave it the keys that we're going to be using. Actually, let's put it here. We gave it a negative key and a positive key, and a alternate negative key and an alternate positive key. So you can see here is left and right button and A and D. Right? The rest of the stuff you could ignore it for now. Okay, these are like for accesses if you want to use a controller, etc., etc. For now, it's fine. Now, how does this work? This little thing over here, it actually gives you a value between. Oops, I didn't want to save it. So it gives you a value between two things. Between, -1 here and +1. And the default up in the middle here, it's 0. Okay? So what does this mean? This means when the negative button left is being clicked on, it will start changing the value for horizontal towards -1. Why doesn't it not just do -1? Well, because you could have low press, you tapped it, or if you did, these type of things where you don't want to, like, let's say, jump super high, but you want to just like move a bit forward. This is why we do this, or why it does that. So 0 means no button is being pressed, but then he pressed the left arrow, right? The negative button, and the value started going from 0 to -1, and it stops at -1. Now if he lets go, it'll start going back to 0 at a little slow rate. And eventually he might press right. And if he presses right, it's going to go towards the 1, like go towards right. It's going to go 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 until he reaches 1. And do the same thing when he lets go. Okay? So that's how this part works. Now inside the code, okay? So inside the code, to get those things, we need to do this thing, get access horizontal. This function will return you a float number, right? A floating number. So we're going to save that number into horizontal and vertical. Again, those numbers are going to be between -1, which is the left negative button. So in this case, when horizontal is pressed, it's either pressed by a left button or by the key A, right? Or it's going to give you 0. 0 is when none of the buttons are pressed, so neither A or D or left or right being pressed, or it's gonna give you, actually let's put some little dots here, or it's gonna give you 1. 1 means the positive button, so the positive button being right, or the alternate of that, which is D, right? So it's gonna give you a value between those. Same thing for Mr. Vertical, right? If we look at vertical over here, it's the down and up arrows and the S and W for the alternates. So what can we do with that? Well, we could say, so here, so I'm gonna change this, but if I was you guys, I would keep this for later on. Actually, it doesn't matter, we'll change it. So, actually, you know what? I'm gonna comment out everything here. We don't need it anymore, at least not for now. Okay, just comment it out and put a star / here. So what we're gonna do this time is we're gonna create a new float. We're gonna call it move speed, all right? Or sorry, MS, okay, for move speed, or let's call it final move speed because we have a bunch of move speed. So the final move speed. Well, if we look here for a movement, we already could see there's a boost, there's a move speed, and time delta time. I'm going to forget about the boost speed for now, but just grab the move speed and the time delta time and the vector, which is the, actually the vector we could forget. The time delta time and the move speed, okay? I'm going to put it here. Now, how do I know if I'm going forward or back? Is going to be done by this horizontal. So we could come ahead and say horizontal, which also kind of dictates the speed, right? Because this goes from 0, and it could be any values between 0 to 1 or 0 to -1, right? So this is going to dictate if I'm going forward, back, or at what rate I'm going, etc. So that's for horizontal. So final move speed horizontal. Actually, it shouldn't be called move speed. Let's rename it actually. It does the direction of left and right, and it does this kind of a speed thing, and everything's in there. So let's just go horizontal movement, alright? And we're gonna do another one called vertical movement, which is gonna take the same stuff except for the horizontal, and we're just gonna grab the vertical input. Now note something, by the way, to get the access I needed to make sure I typed the name correctly. Remember those capitalization? A lot of people keep getting those errors and it's a bugger, but make sure you test out your code as you type. Right, so a way to test out this, you could do a debug dot log, right, and put in just horizontal, there we go. I can't type, I'm really sorry. Plus equals horizontal, right? So now you would see the value of horizontal, and you could do the same thing for vertical, right? So this would help you out to make sure that you're actually getting values between -1 to 1. So now we get those two speeds. What we could actually do is go grab this transform.position and just grab the new vector 3. And inside here, this was telling us if we're going vertical, right? Or if we're going forward or back, right? So here we could just say vertical movement. And to go left or right, we're actually using the X, so we could go horizontal movement. And we're actually done with our position. Now, you're wondering, why were we able to do this? Wouldn't it always move if we just leave it like that? Well, no, because remember, if the keys are not being pressed, it's going to be 0. 0 times anything is going to give you 0. So here is going to be 0, and here is going to be 0 until the user presses the key. So let's go test that out. We'll go press play. We'll go forward. We'll go backwards. Look, when I let go, kind of slides a bit. I'm going to let go now. See, it slides a bit because it's not back to 0 right away. If you look, you could see the values here. So I'm going to let go. And you see it took like a millisecond more to just go back to 0. As soon as I let go, it goes from 1 or minus 1 to 0. And now we have our movement, but based on whatever the key is, right? So left would work, right would work, AWSD would work, all of these, and we could go change it even more. And the coolest part is, later on in the game, we could create a menu where the user comes in and selects his own buttons. And that would be the best fit, right? Because everyone wants to be able to do this intuitive thing they do on that device. You don't want to enforce something. Enforcing your own way would actually ruin a lot of play, a lot of the game style or the user's experience while playing your game, right? So you always want to aim for that intuitive type of game, and this is what you want to do, an input manager, right? Sometimes like the escape key, you do not want it to be there, but anyway, whatever your thing is, you should aim for this. If you really need to, don't add it. All right, so that's it for this, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This was lab 1. Should have taught you enough to be able to move around. Now if you need to, I would say go create your 2D game or go play around with this lab 1. You should be able to make this movement. If I was you, add a second robot and give it different movement and let a 2-player move around in this little zone, and that would be super cool, right? So add an input manager for player 2, add a second robot called David, and just put the code there, and maybe add a public string to figure out which input that script should take. And I think that's pretty much it. And then you could have 2 players going around crazily inside this game scenario we have. Anyway, so I am done with this video. I'll see you guys next time. We'll start lab number 2. So this was Rez. Hope to see you soon. If you can, like, subscribe, and see you next time. Cheers, bro.